Hello, hello. Thank you all for joining me. My name is Katie Palisol. I'm the General Manager of the UK for Politico. I just wanted to thank you all to the pub and thank you for joining us. And I'm going to hand over to Uber, Andrew Brem from Uber. He's the GM for the UK. Thank you so much for supporting our pub.
Thank you. It's an absolute honour to have the Secretary of State for Business and Trade here, Peter Kyle. Thank you for coming along. Thank you all for coming along too. I hope you all feel thoroughly at home with the flock wallpaper and the sticky floors. And not only that, but a pint poured absolutely superbly, suspiciously superbly in fact, showing so many skills that will become no doubt useful now and in the future. Look, I think the UK is really has an opportunity to absolutely win in this whole world of AI, AV, science more generally. I think what we're really waiting for is for those early signs, the skills that we have to be turned into really material growth and success. At Uber, obviously, we do lots of things, including driving cars around the place. We do partner with a UK leader in autonomous vehicles, Wave, based in London, and we're very much looking forward to have the first AVs on the road next year. So, we're looking forward to the future. And Peter, I think no one is better placed than you to tell us a little bit about how you're going to turn that into reality with you and your department. So now, let's go into the interview. You've got your thing?
Anne, you were
Hi.
You were over there, but they were also anxious when I was pouring a pint. They all thought
that was going to go wrong.
No, they literally thought I couldn't just do that. And there was all these people.
You do realise after the bacon sandwich about Ed Miliband that your career was in your hands at that point. Well, let's dive straight in. Pace the interview. Did the Prime Minister do enough today to satisfy quite a lot of people here in this party, let alone beyond it, who thought that he might not be the man to lead the party into May elections, let alone beyond?
You only have to see the reaction that he got in the hall. It was, it was a very thoughtful speech. It was a very Keir unleashed speech. It was very much as I know Keir to be privately, and that is thoughtful, considered. But also, you saw that other thing, which is sort of the kind of urgency and slight, I don't want to say anger, it's too much, but he is really passionate about stuff. And I don't think people have quite seen the combination of thoughtful but also quite passionate in a really kind of anxious way, because he knows we're a year into government, and he knows it's been a difficult year in government. And he knows that people are hungry for change and to feel the change, whether you're running a business or whether you're a person that needs more sort of money in your pocket and.
It sounds like you think he realised that he knew himself that he had to get his act together a bit at this point.
Not get his act together. Because look what he's done in the last year, and look how he's healed our relationship with our global partners, how he's wended our way through extraordinary global challenges to deliver the US trade deal and the Indian trade deal and all these other sort of global challenges that he suddenly is just in the middle of, because of the fact he is able to bring people together, and he's very adaptable in these circumstances, and that's what we've seen so far. But we do need a different pace from government in the next year than we've had in the last year.
He said that Britain stands at a fork in the road and sought to frame the fight very clearly between himself and Nigel Farage, even in personal terms. Do you think he actively dislikes Nigel Farage?
I don't know. Keir, there's only a couple of people I've ever heard him privately say that he dislikes.
Go on.
No, I'm not going to lie when I say. Oh, all right then. Seeing as though you're asking, and I've got a Diet Coke in front of me. No, and he. When I say that what you saw from Keir today is the Keir that you see privately, it's what he did that I think was so good was that he painted a vision of a better Britain, one in which we're coming together to solve problems, one where we acknowledge difference, we talk about difference, but we do so within the values of the flag, and yes, be comfortable with the flag. That's very different than just pointing at someone you disagree with and sneering at them and undermining them and questioning their values and who they are as individuals and what motivates people.
Right. Well, the battle with reform was was painted as a fight for the soul of the country, every bit as rebuilding Britain after the war. So he was really, really going to town there on the rhetoric. Now that sounded like really like a battle cry that you might hear at the beginning of an election campaign. And actually, another way to look at it is, are we really now in for what could be 3 to 4 years of electioneering instead of governing with the sort of confidence? Because in government, as you know, you're in a delivery department, you've got to deliver. You're either sort of in campaign mood and you're sort of squeezing people against your enemy, or you're kind of really focused on delivery. And I think people are a bit confused now about what the government is setting out.
Okay, so I think you're right and you're wrong. I think you're right.
Well, let's go with the right bit first.
Okay, all right. So you're right in identifying the energy that goes, and the clarity and the sense of urgent purpose that goes into a campaign. But we're not doing this for a campaign. We're doing the same sense of urgency, clarity, and the drive, the unrelenting drive that goes into winning an election, we are now doing towards delivering economic growth. First, the first mission in government, and all the other departments that for whether it's Ed, when it's the transition to renewables, certainly with Rachel and all the rest of it, and in business, this is the department of growth. Every department, lays the foundations for growth because public services and the economy and all those sorts of areas and transport, but it is the private sector in this country that will create the growth. So, what people will see is that energy that you've just identified, but that is focused on these things that are barriers to growth, and these things that we can create growth with. And these are the things we have to go, big on.
He conceded that a lot of businesses had felt the pain since the first budget when Labour came to power. But really, he's still under a lot of pressure from businesses on a number of things, on a perception in many quarters in business that employment rights are going to tie their hands at a time when they need to be even more agile in a very competitive global economy and in an era of AI, in which we used to talk a lot in your last job. He acknowledged that this was game-changing. At the same time, in a way, he wanted the old Labour, you can have lots of rights and your jobs will be and your rights will be safer. He's talking at a time when we're seeing pharmaceutical companies pulling out of the UK. If you were listening from a business perspective, in certain quarters, you could say this was a speech for lots of other people, but it was not really a speech that would make you think, as UK PLC, the Prime Minister has got our back in a practical way.
I think this was a speech that the thing I liked about it was shorter than the one he did last year, but it was very principles based. And that's, I think, what people are crying out for at the moment, is what is the values and principles and how will you apply them? Rather than just going through every single sector and then all of the different, the sort of, you've been covering this for a long time. I've been observing it and participant for a long time. When it comes to a leader's speech, there's just a checklist of stuff you have to get through. I think what he did today was put all of that to one side and say, what is it I want to say to people? What motivates me and how will I approach it?
What did you say to businesses that would make them think the operating environment, the things that people are critical about?
So the first thing is...
It's going to make any difference?
Well, the first thing today is you saw the Prime Minister say he gets it. And I don't think anybody would look at him and say that he didn't. Now, the second thing to say is about the workers' rights and all the rest of it. We have an economy which has just moved forward because society has moved forward. Technology has disrupted the economy. Therefore, we have today the ability for people to undercut a business in the same sector, not through competition, but through using 0 hours contracts and a race to the bottom, which I don't think we want in this country, using labour in ways that we haven't had in our economy for quite a long time. Now, what we are doing is making sure that competition is now equal, and those companies who invest in their workforce and invest in innovation and invest in the future of their company and the environment that they're in, they're the ones that will prevail. Because if they're being undercut by people who are using cheap labour and getting around labour legislation in order to deliver competitive advantage, then of course we're in an economy that's in a race to the bottom. Nobody wants that. They acknowledge they don't want that. So what we're doing is raising the floor and getting it fit for the 2020s going forward. That means we have a competitive environment. And yes, when we get to the point where we move forward, we will have a pro-worker and a pro-business set of legislation that's fit for the age we're living in.
I think he'd be quite happy with that answer. Now, what about the Ghost at the Feast, the banquet here? Oh, you even know where I'm going with that, don't you?
No, but it's like, is it last week's Ghost of the Feast?
No,
or is it,
this week's
okay,
Ghost of the Feast,
right.
Andy Burnham, pledged his support to the Prime Minister today, but still has some differences on digital ID, etc. I mean, do you think that enough was done then by Keir Starmer to see off those who were thinking, perhaps didn't come into this looking for some sort of sectarian conflict in the Labour Party, although it's actually quite good at that, but were thinking, Andy Burnham, maybe there's more to him and he would be more the answer to what their views and what they feel the Labour Party should stand for?
Well, firstly, he has committed support for the Prime Minister, and secondly, he has voiced differences with him on policy, which shows perfectly well that there is a live debate within the Labour Party and people aren't being shut down to have that debate. So I think he's kind of...
Although he did say it was, didn't he? He said it was being shut down.
So he's kind of proved the point that he was trying, the negative he was making has just been proven, by today in the way that it's all unfolded. And at the end of the day, this is politics. This is a political party, and the party has spoken, and he saw it in the hall today. This was a united, upbeat, committed Labour Party that is positive for the year ahead based on the vision that was spelt out by the Prime Minister. And I don't think anybody in the hall was looking around over their shoulder for somebody else to articulate an alternative vision in this moment. And that is the spirit in which we will move forward after this conference.
Do you think Andy Burnham would be chastened by that experience?
That's a question for Andy Burnham. It really isn't for me, because literally I've got a lot on my plate. Worrying about Andy Burnham and what he's thinking at the moment isn't on it.
Asked and answered. The big story today, possibly even more salient than Andy Burnham, is, of course, the peace plan put up by President Trump to end the conflict in Gaza. The Prime Minister welcomed that in his speech. Donald Trump has said that Sir Tony Blair, former UK Prime Minister, know well and was, I think, was around during your rise ministerially, wants to join the international body overseeing Gaza under this plan to end the war. Now, you may have had a great time with Tony Blair, but a lot of Labour Party members, and dare I say it, backbenchers, are quite sceptical, and they're vocal about their worries about his involvement in any sort of viceroy role. Do you understand that?
We have to see what the nature of everything unfolds. All of this is contingent on the initial agreement and the ability and the desire of Hamas to come to the table and actually sign a deal. Everything that comes afterwards needs to unfold afterwards and be negotiated there. So what I'm not going to do is preempt any of that. And I know Tony well, and I know that he will want what is best for the region, whether that's his involvement or not. He will be there to support that process in any way that I think he believes there is desire for him to be involved in. That would be for the moment of moving forward from there. But right now,
Quite strange, isn't it, to be the Prime Minister and then have a previous Prime Minister who's basically now seems to be sorting out one of the biggest conflicts that's absolutely riven your party and wider society, which is the war in Gaza and relations with Israel. It's almost like a double-headed monarchy.
Well, we're the only country in the world that I know of that wouldn't celebrate the fact that we have statespeople that are actually used at time of crisis globally. We are quite remarkable as a country through time to have produced statespeople who are able to make a big impact on the world stage. We're the only country that sort of presents that as a negative. I think every other country, loads of Scandinavian countries have had former prime ministers who are actually appearing and involved in global politics well after their time as being heads of state or heads of government. We should celebrate this, not do the opposite.
Do you think the peace plan's based in part on the Good Friday Agreement, which was, of course, one of the great sort of totemic achievements of the Blair government? We've got Jonathan Pole, who negotiated that on behalf of Blair, the heart of government as National Security Advisor. Do you see echoes?
It's quite interesting because I was prepping to do some media I think yesterday, and when I was reading some of the things, and I don't know enough in detail, so I'm not going to comment directly because I honestly haven't read enough about what is proposed in the 21-point plan, and I don't know all of the 21 points even. But when I was looking at some of the headlines, I was reminded of some of the language, certainly, that was around and has been around the Good Friday Agreement. If that's the case, then there are glimmers of hope, I think, because actually the Good Friday Agreement was quite extraordinary in its ability not to make both sides forget their differences and forget them, but to find a framework in which the differences could be expressed together within the same framework. And that was quite an extraordinary achievement, and it's something that has clearly been a template that's been used elsewhere. I don't know whether it is, but it is interesting that when I was reading about it, it did come to my mind.
Let's come back to one of your special subjects, which is the trade deal and, and tariffs. Now, you recently said tariff relief for UK steel is being negotiated. There may be an announcement as soon as possible. Feels like possible now, don't we think? Yeah. You're right here. Tell us a bit about the state of that. Is it imminent? Because the steel industry has expressed disappointment in the move to shelve plans for the elimination of tariffs on exports of the metal. Now, what is it that's standing in the way? We know it's complex. We know it's complex to deal with the Trump administration. But is this intransigence from the White House, or is it something else?
No. So, firstly, this has been celebrated, and the amount of work that's gone into this and what has been delivered has been acknowledged by the steel industry and consistently through. Even though we have a 25% tariff on steel exports to the United States, that is half of what in the entire rest of the world have to pay. So what people want is a competitive advantage, and they have a 25% competitive advantage compared to the rest of the world, and that is something that is benefiting British steel and the British steel exports to the United States, and it does so in a really pointed and profound way. We are negotiating still with the United States on a whole bunch of different areas, and we of course we want to keep moving forward with that, and steel is part of those conversations. What I'm not going to say is that there is now sort of a deadline, a ticking clock and a countdown clock in the way that there was with the first trade and tariff deal, simply because of the dates that the Trump administration had put on it. When you look at what the US, the EU, India, China and other territories are doing, all of them have a very distinct approach to steel. And we, as Britain, need to find our way within that. And it isn't just about, because America is not just thinking, what should our global steel policy be, and it's only in relation to the UK, because it's not. They are thinking about a global relationship with steel, and the UK is one part of it. And because of the strength of our relationships... Can I just cut to the chase,
Peter, say, are we giving up on getting that 25% tariff reduced?
We're not giving up on moving forward in a whole range of areas, and steel is still part of that conversation.
So you want other things in case you can't get there on steel?
No, I want loads of things. Whether we get steel, whatever progress it is, there is a whole bunch of other industries and sectors that would benefit from more. Look, we're pretty good at doing this. We're the first country to get a deal. We just did a tech partnership, which I was very, very involved in the negotiations for. That's created $300 billion worth of commercial opportunity between the two countries, and $150 billion worth of direct investment from US firms into Britain. So we're doing some pretty good things on this that are going to create enormous opportunities for British business and the British economy. And yes, as we move forward, there's a whole range of other areas that we want to do more in.
Next, you'll be telling me I'm never satisfied. Right, let's find some people to ask some questions. There is a gentleman at the back, one here. If we could get the mics around quickly, we could even get a couple of questions in together. That would be good value and efficiency driving, cost savings. There you go.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name's Dan Mann. I work for a company called Cemex. We make cement and concrete. I know, exciting. Imports of cement are eradicating the market. 1% in 1990, 30% now, and we're at the lowest levels of production in the UK since the Second World War. Steel gets a lot of love rightly, and it's absolutely integral to building battleships, etc. But everything around us, everything around Liverpool relies on cement. Will the government support UK manufacture of cement like it's done for steel?
Okay.
Thank you.
Go.
Yeah, I just think cement needs a different set of support than steel. Steel is very, very unique as cement is. So what I want to do is listen and learn and see how the British government can support the industry and see how it is in the best interests of consumers here in the UK.
The lady over here.
My name's Claire. I work for the Financial Services Skills Commission. One of the things in Keir's speech I thought was quite striking was the removal of the 50% target of students going to university. And that's going to put more expectation that apprenticeships will fill some of that. Apprenticeships are great. But that means you have to get employers to employ apprentices. And with the removal of some of the funding for apprenticeships at level 7, how are we going to get more employers to create apprenticeships to achieve that ambition?
Yeah, this is something that I care about very, very deeply. And this is one of my core reasons that I got political in the first place and I came into politics and what's driving me a lot in politics. I was unbelievably proud of the 50% target when the Blair government first introduced it. When I was struggling to get into university in 1995, only 14% of school leavers were going to university. People forget that. When Labour left office in 2010, it was 43%. So that target was an amazing ladder of opportunity and social mobility that rammed through change in a system that simply wasn't capable of changing itself. And being personally involved in some of those journeys, I saw exactly how good those systems were at just diverting kids off. The lifting or the refocusing of the target to include apprentices, I think, is really smart. And what that doesn't do is shunt to one side higher education. What it does do is embrace in the same target and bring into that sense of ambition other forms of other pathways from post-16 education. So universities, of course, deliver a lot of apprenticeships. Universities and further education institutions deliver a lot of apprenticeships in partnership with business. So what it's doing is embracing a whole set, a sort of ecosystem of pathways into work that it does also include universities, and it will allow universities to be rewarded for that target by also delivering apprenticeships as well as just straight degrees as they were doing before.
Does that sound like renaming
No, it is not,
degrees,
because listen to the language. The language is very clear. It's gold standard apprenticeships. So these are high quality apprenticeships, and of course, so there will be businesses that will be able to deliver them directly, further education, higher education, and then other providers as well. Other providers. This is a way of just galvanising our country through different means to get young people into the pathway that is best for their potential. And I think this is hugely exciting. It is hugely ambitious. And I think it is something that could be fundamental to the next drive towards social mobility. I really do. Because if it's blurred, pathways are blurred and have the same prestige to get into the career of your choice, then this is definitely a step forward. But it's not exclusive. It's not excluding or shunting to one side higher education. It's just widening their ability to be rewarded and recognised for what's there.
If there's one short and snappy one, who am I supposed to pick? And somebody just pick a question with a microphone next to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary of State. David from the British Fashion Council. Trade agreements are fantastic. They break down barriers, they increase market access, but they don't necessarily grow an audience for British brands, British products in those markets. That's what export promotion is for. And we've seen a lack of export promotion so far in this government. So how will you be increasing the level of export promotion to match the success you are seeing in trade agreements?
So I've only been in the job for a couple of weeks, and already I've looked at our relationship with the FCDO. Of course, all of our high commissions and embassies have, most of them will have DVT trade representatives from my department embedded into the work, the consular services that we do abroad. I think to date, and Johnny had started this work, but to date there's not been enough strategy in it. And I think the temptation in all these things is, what America does is spend vast amounts of money sort of they spread it very, very broadly. A country like Britain must be much more strategic in these areas. We now have the industrial strategy. We have other industries and sectors where we have global advantage. And we need to be really attuned to where the global advantage is with key sectors, including fashion, which add to sort of our soft power, hard power, and economic prosperity, aligned with those sectors that were spelled out in the industrial strategy. Find those areas of the world and countries where we have opportunity within that and align it to the priorities of our economy back here. And so what you'll see is, yes, we have to make some rationing in some areas, but you will see increased efforts in others. And in other words, a more strategic approach to our global trade relationships.
Just before we end with a bit of fun, can I just squeeze you on that, on the pharma industry? It's just such a big story, and it seems like a really big headache. I mean, we do have people like Sir John Bell, absolutely very high calibre of people, very prominent scientist who brought business and government together, as you will know him well during the vaccine rollout. So he's not an alarmist when he says the pharma industry is in real trouble in terms of pricing, particularly in America. A lot of people are kind of waiting for something different to come forward. Should they be expecting something to come from you?
Sorry to cut you, because I know you rushed through it. Firstly, there is a lot of discussions and negotiations going on over pricing. Secondly, we're looking very carefully at the NHS, and Wes is doing some amazing work at this because we want new, innovative, emerging medicines to be available in the NHS as much as possible. And too often, particularly after the legacy of the Tories, actually that's not happening quickly enough. Thirdly, let's just be honest about this. The pharma companies are very good negotiators. They are hard negotiators, and they know how to use the media and the press to do it. But we are tough negotiators too, and we are in the process of negotiating lots of different arrangements and agreements and investments into pharma. We have one of the best life sciences communities in the world. And as I said in my speech, if you are a scientist, if you are commercializing innovation and your country doesn't want you, we are open to you here. And you will see companies like BioNTech doing cutting-edge work. They've just invested £1 billion, because I signed the deal with them a couple of months back. So there are companies like that that are doing cutting-edge life sciences work that are coming here to increase their footprint and invest in Britain. And we're building out between Oxford and Cambridge. We are doing lots of regulatory reform. We are an AI. Jensen Huang from NVIDIA wants us to be an AI superpower. That has a direct bearing on pharmaceutical and scientific discovery and drug discovery. All these things are happening in Britain, and those pharma companies should be part of it. And we are doing everything we can do on behalf of government to make sure we have the circumstances where they can thrive.
God, leave on a bit of fun though, because we are in a pub, even if you're drinking.
What, is that gin then?
Sadly, it's water, but it might be gin in just a moment. I will do one last quick fire round. One's just popped into my head.
God. Okay.
Oh, you love
hate
these
these
also.
things,
Actually, Dan Bloom's calls are brilliant at these. I just go with what comes in the moment. You're going to come down the pub and you're in a 1 or 2. Are you going to come with Angela Rayner or Peter Mandelson?
Oh. I'm going to be really careful. Well, I'm going to go with my constituent. Because we can go to a local pub.
Okay, I can see the diplomatic service has definitely got an applicant in you. Thank you very much indeed,
right.
Peter Kyle.
Thanks.
Oh, I should say, Heidi Alexander in about 10 minutes? 5 minutes. We hogged the limelight, but I think in a good cause after the speech. Heidi Alexander, Transport Secretary, here shortly.
All right.